Medicine looks at the body. Psychology looks at the mind. What looks at the human being? Viktor Frankl spent his career arguing that this question revealed a critical gap in the modern understanding of what a person is, and that the gap was causing real harm to real patients who were being treated for conditions that could only be properly understood by attending to a third dimension that neither medicine nor conventional psychology had been trained to address. Frankl's dimensional ontology, his systematic account of the three levels at which the human being exists, is one of the most carefully developed and most practically important aspects of his theoretical work. The first dimension is the somatic, the body, the biological organism, with its neurochemistry, its genetics, its vulnerabilities to disease, its remarkable resilience. Modern medicine is enormously effective at this level, and Frankl had nothing but respect for its achievements. A patient with a neurochemical disorder, a thyroid imbalance, or a genuine neurological condition needs medical treatment, and no amount of meaning-making will substitute for it. The second dimension is the psychic, the psychological, the level of emotions, cognitions, memories, relational patterns, and unconscious processes that constitute the inner life at its most familiar level. Psychotherapy, in its many forms, works at this level, exploring the patterns that have developed, often from early experience, that shape how a person responds to the world. This work is also genuinely valuable, and Frankl respected it and incorporated it into his own clinical practice. But the third dimension, the Noetic, is what Frankl considered his primary contribution and his most important discovery. The Noetic dimension is the level of specifically human existence, the level at which the person is capable of reflection, of choosing values, of orienting toward meaning, of exercising conscience, of self-transcendence. It is not the same as intelligence or emotional complexity, both of which could in principle be simulated by sufficiently sophisticated machines. It is the dimension in which a human being takes a position toward their own condition, steps back from what is happening to them and decides who they will be in response to it. Frankl used the image of projecting a three-dimensional object onto two-dimensional planes to illustrate the distortion that occurs when the Noetic dimension is omitted. Project a cylinder onto a horizontal plane, you get a circle. Project it onto a vertical plane, you get a rectangle. Neither the circle nor the rectangle is the cylinder. In the same way, projecting the human being onto only the somatic and psychic dimensions produces images of the person that are not false exactly. Both have their truth, but that are radically incomplete. The full human being is more than the sum of their biology and their psychology. The practical consequences of this incompleteness are significant. A patient treated exclusively at the somatic level for a condition that is primarily neurogenic, originating in existential frustration rather than neurochemistry, may receive medication that manages symptoms while the underlying problem is entirely unaddressed. A patient treated exclusively at the psychic level, given excellent insight into their childhood dynamics and their relational patterns, may become very sophisticated about why they are suffering without gaining any clarity about what they should be living for. Both are receiving partial treatment for a whole-person problem. Frankl also insisted on the autonomy of each dimension from the others, a principle he called dimensional anthropology. Pathology at one level did not inevitably produce pathology at another. A person with serious physical illness could maintain remarkable psychological health and spiritual richness. A person with no identifiable psychological disorder could suffer profoundly from existential emptiness. This autonomy had clinical implications. It meant that the Noetic dimension could not be reduced to a reflection of what was happening in the other two, and that its well-being required its own attention and its own form of care. The 21st century is, in various ways, beginning to catch up with this insight. The field of positive psychology has established meaning and purpose as primary predictors of well-being that are not reducible to the absence of pathology. Research on meaning-centered psychotherapy has demonstrated that direct work at the Noetic level produces measurable clinical benefits. The concept of spiritual well-being, distinct from religious practice and from psychological health, has entered the vocabulary of palliative care and oncology. Frankl mapped this territory before the empirical researchers arrived. His dimensional ontology is not a philosophical luxury. It is a clinical necessity. The practical implication of dimensional anthropology for anyone serious about their own well-being is simple and demanding in equal measure. Check all three levels. When you are struggling, ask not just what is wrong with my body or what is wrong with my mind, but also what is wrong with my meaning. Are you oriented towards something genuinely worth your time and energy? Are you living in ways that express what you actually value, or ways that express what you have been trained to value? Are you attending to the Noetic dimension, the level of conscience, meaning, and self-transcendence, with anything like the attention you give to your physical health and your psychological comfort? For most people, The honest answer is no. And the gap that honest answer reveals is often the most important place to look for the source of whatever is not yet right. Subscribe to the Psychology of Viktor Frankl to explore more of his timeless ideas.